This episode, Golden and I discuss the Netflix movie Don't Look Up. Full speed ahead.
The Omega Beam. Full power. The Omega Beam.
Welcome to the Omega Beam number 163. I'm your host, Orrin Merton. Don't Look Up made a name for itself because of its stellar cast, its timely subject matter, and now that it's award season, it's one of the films in that conversation. So that meant it's time for us to have our conversation about it. We start out spoiler-free, then, as you probably know if you've listened to a bunch of our episodes, we do get into spoilers, so be aware. And let's get into it. I am here with Golden to talk about the Netflix original movie, Don't Look Up. What did you think?
We had been told it was hilarious.
We were.
And it definitely had its parts that were funny, but it's hard to find it that funny when it's sad and serious.
I joked when I was telling people I saw it that I watched the documentary Don't Look Up because I don't know if we're going to be able to not give spoilers away in the beginning of this because it's hard to give no spoilers.
It's been out for a while.
Yeah.
If you're looking for I wouldn't necessarily call it a mockumentary, but it is a sad look at the fact that many things that may in fact endanger our planet or our people are just not taken seriously.
Right. It's a disaster dramedy.
That it's, what's going to sell media-wise.
Right.
How can you make money? And a lot of that's just sad.
Yeah. It's absolutely worth a watch. I know it's a movie that is definitely in awards contention. Awards don't necessarily influence what we choose to watch or not, but it's just at that level. We're talking about it here, even though it's not our usual fare, because it is, in the most broad sense, science fiction, in the sense that the movie is based on science that is fictitious. It's based on a comet coming to Earth, which it isn't.
And at the very beginning of the movie, it kept saying bash, bash, bash. And you're like, yeah, this product placement's really overdoing it.
Right.
And
I was looking up, is bash real? What is bash? But no, it's the equivalent of like a Google, Microsoft type of company.
There was an actual that phone did.
Okay, is there?
Yeah, I think I told you. I looked it up,
that's right.
It didn't. It's no longer made.
Yeah.
And it was not very popular when it came out.
Right. So it definitely is a serious look at a real problem in our world, especially in the United States. However, it is a real look done in a fictitious situation using humor as well as drama. I think that's a decent way to put it.
Okay.
So let's get into some spoilers. 3, 2, 1 spoilers. I had read that this was the creator's take on how in the United States, especially, the climate catastrophe, the climate threat is not being taken seriously, specifically out of greed or political expediency. And a lot of the beats that they hit with this movie were them extrapolating, well, what would happen if these things, if the way people argue and talk about these things were taken to extremes? And then COVID hit. And what they were using as satire seemed to be pretty close to what these people were saying. I mean, the whole title of the movie, Don't Look Up. The people who are denying the comet are literally telling people not to look up because the comet is not a joke. It's not a ploy. It's really hurtling towards Earth. So they're like making a conspiracy theory right-wing talking point. Don't look up. And we sitting here watching television can sit here and say, oh my God, that is so absurd. Who would ever buy something like that? Don't look up. But there were conspiracy theories that were absolutely insane. Things like that they were putting chips in vaccines and things that are obviously untrue and not technologically possible. But it does make you think. I mean, that there are people who will believe anything, and this movie is satirizing it. They're not just. It's not just a documentary on these are things people believe that are clearly not true. It's a satire, and so they're trying to make it extreme. Like, don't look up. Who's not going to look up and see the truth? But it is an incredibly compelling watch. That's for sure. Heavy-handed, certainly, because it's a movie with an absolute point of view, and it is not afraid to make sure you know what it is.
And the cast is very good.
Cast is amazing. I mean, they got absolute top-notch movie stars to do it. A director of hit movies is the co-creator and director of it, Adam McKay. I mean, this could have been a just theatrical release comedy. I'm guessing because of, or, satire, dramedy, etc. I'm guessing the reason it's a Netflix movie is because of the entire situation with COVID and everything else that they decided this was the smart move. And it looks great. I mean, this is not a movie about special effects, but of course it looks great. It does.
Like I said, there were definitely parts that were funny. Mm-hmm. And there's some things that just come back to me that I find them humorous. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that the general charged them for things at the White House that were absolutely free.
Right.
And Jennifer Lawrence's character just getting so upset about that. And then just carrying it through the entire film.
Yeah.
It's like the world is ending and we're still upset that someone ripped us off.
Right.
Something to eat and drink.
Yeah,
but the little things do matter. The little things do matter. And what do we have? I mean, compared to some places and where some other people live or how you grew up, there was an article that I just read that Kevin Smith was talking about how he never felt privileged because they didn't have a lot of money. But there are so many different types of poverty.
Right.
It is not just money. It is love. It is attention. There are so many different levels and different ways in which you can be impoverished. And with him, he didn't ever feel like he was privileged. And some people were like,
you had running water.
To see you.
Yeah.
Someone's always going to see you as better than them or look down on you.
Yeah.
No matter where you are, or what level you're at or anything like that. And he was privileged enough to still be able to live at home and make his movie.
Right.
His parents didn't kick him out on the street. Okay, you're 18, you're gone.
And he had a middle-class home. I mean, it's not like he grew up in the sticks in an apartment with 25 other families.
It's just those little things and how you view each other is at the end of the movie, he's like, yeah, we really did have it all.
And yeah, very true.
He had a loving family. They cared about each other. He had friends. He had a good job. When we get down about what we don't have, it's nice to reflect on everything that we do.
Yeah, and there were some really interesting characters that weren't necessarily part of the sort of the main story is sort of scientists and the governments and big business. But I thought one of the more interesting characters that we only meet towards the very, very end is the Timothée Chalamet character. He's this kind of rebel kid, grew up really religious, sort of fell out from the church, but never fell out from just a general sense of belief. And he adds just another perspective as kind of, quote unquote, the little guy who's not involved in potentially earth-saving thing. And I thought he gave a great performance, but I thought it was a really nice character, a nice touch to sort of see the regular American person just kind of caught up in it all. Yule, that's right. And I really enjoyed that they brought that character in, so it wasn't all just kind of the quote-unquote elites, if you will, that are the main characters. They brought him in towards the end. And obviously when you have Jonah Hill in a movie, you're going to get some great jokes, and his comic timing is amazing. Meryl Streep has always been known for having great comic timing, and she is amazing. One of the out-of-the-movie things I remember reading, which is hilarious, was Jonah Hill kept calling Meryl Streep the GOAT. Ladies and gentlemen, the GOAT, and everyone would clap. And Meryl Streep laughed about it, but she had no idea why Jonah Hill kept calling her a GOAT. But she could tell it was done in good faith and good fun. And finally, she asked Jennifer Lawrence why he kept referring to her as a GOAT, and she explained, no, it means greatest of all time.
Yeah, one of my students one time made a reference to GOAT, and I was like, I don't understand. And then I realized that it's an acronym.
Yeah. But yeah, clearly this is a movie that the people making it had a lot of fun. For those who follow, like Leonardo DiCaprio, you know that he is a very, very serious climate activist. So this is something that is clearly close to his heart. Yeah, it's hard to find any flaw in this movie. It wasn't our favorite film or anything, but it's absolutely worth a watch.
Yeah. If you enjoy that type of movie. Now, if you are not on board with current health recommendations, I don't think you're going to find the movie as humorous.
I don't remember who it was. Somebody on Twitter, someone in the entertainment industry who's famous, and I just don't remember who, basically said, if you are offended by anything in Don't Look Up, that's because you're the one being satirized. And not to insult anybody, but yeah, kind of. I mean, no going in, that's the kind of movie this is. That this is a movie with an absolute point of view, and that point of view is believe science, follow the data, don't deny reality, don't let big business, don't let billionaires control the world, let reason control the world. And we need to be more kind and we need to be more reasonable. I think we said this way so long ago when we were talking about Black Panther, and there were some people who were arguing that Black Panther is a liberal movie, and it's like, why? There's nothing liberal in Black Panther. It's just compassion. Why is compassion considered liberal? And I would say the same here. I know that in the United States, particularly, climate change and climate activism is a hallmark of America's political left. It shouldn't be. There are other nations in the world where it doesn't matter if you're conservative, you still accept climate science.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, we want to do what's right for the climate, and then because of what's going on right now, they are handing out water bottles to students at my school. But they're not handing out big water bottles. They're handing out these tiny, dinky little water bottles.
And all that waste.
And most of that plastic is not getting recycled. It's going into the trash.
Yeah. That's why the companies that make water, like Liquid Death, the people who are working on their own water, like Jason Momoa, they use the aluminum cans because those are almost infinitely recyclable. And I really wish that were the international norm, that water did not come in plastic bottles, but it came in aluminum and was... That's what we need to do as a planet, you know, not to get on a pedestal, but we need to work on recyclables, we need to work on renewables, we need to take care of our earth. I mean, that I know that some people think that's a political thing, but it's not. We all need to take care of our earth. You know, we're all living on it. So I think this movie, I know that some people wrote it off as being too much towards the American left. I don't really think it is. I may be biased on that.
Well, someone had asked him, you know, this is again, a lot of times through the trivia on IMDb, if the president was Republican or Democrat. And he made a comment, he didn't say it was either. He's like, it's not like either party really has that much to boast about that they've done that's spectacular in the last, I don't know, how many decades. Yeah,
exactly. And Adam McKay himself, you know, if one's going to look at the director or creator, you know, co-writer and say, aha, but I think he is center-left, but he's not a hardcore anything. I mean, he's pretty center, you know? He's just a believer in science. And that is what this movie is about. It's definitely taking the American extremist, the American conspiracy theorist, which is at this point in America, mostly the American right. It is taking them to task for what they're doing, but not because of political ideology, because they are denying the science. And I think that is the takeaway, really, is that we really need to be more science-oriented. So it is definitely an interesting movie. It raises a lot of questions that should be raised and that we should talk about. I am going to step out on a limb and say that nearly anyone who's going to be listening to a science fiction fantasy podcast like the Omega Beam is someone who is at least cursorily interested in science. And as such, I think you will enjoy the humor and the satire, and you'll get it. I think that the people who are interested in this podcast are the type of people for whom the questions it raises are going to be meaningful and not insulting. Well, thank you, Golden.
You're welcome.
And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/163. If you like this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Your reviews help people who like this stuff find our podcast.
If you have any comments or suggestions, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.
The Omega Beam. Full stop.